Only a small comment. The impact committee meeting actually wasn't a formal meeting. It was only a discussion because it was. I thought it was postponed or canceled, but apparently it went forward. Both Kathy and I were unable to attend, and we're the only other two committee members. So I was surprised to find that it was posted and the meeting held. That's all I want to say about that.
Okay. That's it. We'll get into action items. A motion will be made and seconded for each item, followed by board discussion. The item will then be open for public discussion. Public comments will close. Final discussion by the board will take place with no public interruption. The board will then vote. Number A is approval of 2011-2012 audit bid.
So I can try to provide a summary of the audits. So one of the things that has changed with a greater capacity to operate things in-house because of our district administrator is also taking a look at the high cost that we're paying the county to do things for us and to try to bring things either in-house or find alternative contractors that charge less and more reasonable rates. One of those was our annual audit that the county was charging us $10,000, $11,000 a year for. So we went out to bid on it and we received 3 responses. All of those were sent out to the board last Thursday by email, so that you didn't have big stack of paper to run through. I'm essentially going to very lightly summarize them. There were 3 different price points. The lowest bid was $5,000 from Sue Lawrence, CPA. Just by way of disclosure, her organization also happens to do the audit for my nonprofit organization. I believe I tossed her name into the hat. She's consistent and high quality. Her expertise, though, is primarily with nonprofit organizations, not with districts, not with special districts. The high bid came in at $7,000 from, I don't know how to pronounce the name, Vector. They're a Sacramento-based organization. I don't think I have anything else to summarize about them. They're not local, and while it was an impressive proposal, their specialization again isn't necessarily district. The bid that came in that is both local and is a person who really focuses on special districts came in at $5,850, a full $5,000 savings still over past year from Larry Johnson, CPA, and based on my review, that would be my recommendation, just coming from the perspective of how you read them, and maybe more detailed than others had a chance to, but it's up for board discussion today. So as a board member, I would move that we select Larry Johnson as our CPA for the 2012 audit.
Okay, so the way we do this is we start with a motion and a second.
I move.
So you move, okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
Peter second. Okay. First, we'll do board discussion. I know the firm Johnson, and I have dealings with them.
I like that we should go local.
Yeah, and the localness and the price and everything else. So you guys copy. Okay, anybody in the audience want to say anything? Okay, thank you. Okay, then we'll go for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, that passed. Okay, so the second one, Resolution 378, approval of business account application and agreement for Community First account. I'll need a roll call vote. So, who wants to?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Peter will make that motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
And Gene seconds. So we'll have our discussion. Not much to that. Is there anything to say now?
It's just
It's pretty cut and dry.
No checks involved.
Just a requirement to get it
A
going.
requirement of the bank, an administrative function, and trying to establish a relationship so that we're out from under the eyes of Sonoma County and their threats about our line of credit.
I will pass on that the Friends of Monte Rio had a bank account for a couple of years at Bank of the West and switched to Community First, and is sorry they did.
Really?
Oh, yeah, they have not. They didn't consider it to work out as a really viable business type of relationship.
We're keeping our business banking checking account with West America. This would be hopefully to just establish a relationship, i.e. an investment account. There won't be checks involved in this account, nothing like that. This will be capitalized money that we're holding.
Great.
And we're just leaving it.
Anybody in the audience have anything to say? Okay. What? You want to say anything?
You are.
Oh, yeah, that's right, you have to do roll call.
You
I'm sorry.
introduced, and it's seconded by,
Peter started it, and Katrina seconded. Gina.
okay,
That's got to be roll call.
Steve Baxman,
Aye.
Peter Andrews,
Aye.
Abby LaPlante,
Aye.
Jean Sasso,
Aye.
Katrina Thurman, right.
Thank you. Okay. All right, the next item is approval of budget salary increase for district administrator.
So as of, in deference to a request from another board member, I'm actually going to remove the request that we do a vote this evening, but I would like a chance to present a little bit more information to the board this evening, but there won't be a vote. I will actually suggest that what we do is schedule a special closed session only specifically for the purpose of reviewing the administrator's performance to date in association with this recommendation. But I would like to give the board the recommendation from the personnel committee and kind of talk this through tonight. I'm also going to pass around the revised job description. I apologize, they're not related. Oh, it's right, it's front and back. Yeah, it also came out by email. Yeah. So here's another copy if you have it, if you didn't get your email of the job description. So just by way of summary, the board members and the general public have raised questions about this. That's why we will delay actually a vote at the board level. Because I think it is important that we all understand where we are and what the facts of it are versus any confusion on the topic. So the personnel committee met twice to discuss the roles and responsibilities of our lead staff position at the district that we're relying on to be successful. We have a member of the public who specializes in human resources. Mary's not here tonight, Mary Baker, who assisted the personnel committee and worked on the job description for us. She sat down both with board members as well as the administrator to match the roles and responsibilities that were actually happening versus an old job description that was in place that the administrator was originally hired for. Based upon what's actually being performed as well as increased responsibilities that we as a district have agreed to based upon the capacity and the needs of the district, the proposal from the committee was to raise the pay rate to an annual equivalent salary of $45,000. That isn't what the position is. It's not a full-time position, but that would be the full-time equivalent salary level. Compared to the level of administrative skills required, as well as financial management skills required, $45,000 is below the mid-range. And we would be hard-pressed to find the same skill set again at that wage, I would venture. And Mary Baker agreed with that one based on her experience in the marketplace. We also, in reviewing the job responsibilities, recognized that there was a shift from an hourly rate, which is a non-exempt position, basically that has somebody telling them what to do and giving instructions at all times, to a person that actually reflects a significant level of independence and autonomous decision-making, not in large matters, but in all of the day-to-day operations of our business, as well as having staff that report in to that position. And identified that this is now a salary exempt position versus the hourly position it was originally hired to be. So based upon this and the request from a board member, our recommendation is that we perform a closed session full board review of the employee, conduct an employee evaluation in that conversation, and at the end of that, assuming we come back to a board level vote and discussion, the recommendation stands to make a retroactive increase to the 6 months from hire date, as we initially stated in prior meetings. There have been some confusion and some information circling that I spent some time digging into today just to provide a nice, clear summary of what the kind of facts are in the case. And so there you see a chart here that shows the past district administrator position, and I have it broken down with the annual equivalent salary of what shows up as 46.8, what the actual wages were, the actual W-2 wages as it was for a full fiscal year, and then the equivalent hourly rate. The fluctuation in range is pretty dramatic. It could be 8 hours a week, it could be 15 in the off-season, and then it could be anywhere from 25 to 40 in the on-season. So it's kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly what this is. That's based on 1 year of actuals. The current district administrator, were we to make no changes, has an annual equivalent of 31.2. The annualized version of that based on the number of hours worked is 17.5, and that's a $15 an hour rate that our current administrator is hired at. The proposal, based upon everything I've just said to the personnel committee, is that we take it to an annualized equivalent of 45. That's in the budget of about 25.3 for this year, and it's an equivalent hourly rate of 21.63. So it's not an arbitrary jump in wages. It's actually a significant jump in responsibility and an according pay increase to lower market rate. So that's the summary document. We can have any more discussion now, or we can wait and table this for a vote discussion later once we've had our closed session.
Say we table.
Since it was on the agenda, I think we should have a discussion.
Okay.
So it's not, I mean, yes, by having the closed session, which of course I only found out about now, at that schedule, which is one of the things that I've requested. I won't go into performance at all, but I certainly would like to go into the salary numbers and sort of share, you just give it your take, I'd like to give my take on what, I've got enough, pass them around here. Because this was a work, you know, it was hard to figure out from your original agenda item what was what. So what I've done with this worksheet is, I think we're trying to sort of figure it all out. So that first block of numbers up at the top was our original offer, posted on Craigslist, as you say, $15 an hour, very clear, very exact. And then there's the next numbers you just recited, a $45,000 a year full-time position at a wage, going to a weekly rate, $865. Then there's a block of numbers that represent your 80-50 proposal, 8% summertime, 50% wintertime hourly, which the fourth block of numbers across there, I gave is because you talked about increasing hours 130, you obviously, to get to your numbers, you have to sort of backfill the original, you need to get down to 1222 instead of looking at 1300, which is a little higher than you're at, actually. So that's a minor point, but nonetheless, it just helps make sense out of the 130. But the main thing is finally there's some comparative analysis. This is a raise. Well, it depends what numbers you take. Are we going from 19.5 to 29.250, which is a 50% raise? Or are we going from 18.330, which you have to back the number down below the 130 hours to get 13.30 was the old rate, to get to 29.250, and it's a 60% raise? Or are we actually approving a raise, if it should turn out to be full-time, to $45,000 a year, which would make it a 145% rise? I put comments in here about those kind of salaries meeting or not meeting the California labor code.
They actually do. I went back and verified that today because it's based on full-time equivalency. So the person's wage must be at an hourly rate double the minimum wage for the state, for it to qualify as an exempt position. So it does meet the qualifications.
Well, double in California is $16 an hour, full-time. It has to be at full-time, weekly rate. Absolutely, it's the law. It has to be at full-time weekly rate. I looked it up too. I know. I've been doing payrolls for 40 years.
We can check on that. That isn't something you and I need to
I think you should. Your actual proposal at 29,250 calls for a weekly rate of 542 an average a year. And you have to meet the 644 that the state requires. You have to.
You're stating that as if it's an absolute fact, and for my HR attorney that I consulted today, it's not true. My personal experience running a business with full-time equivalent positions under 1.0